I'm going to continue this discussion. I would like to merge the two because yesterday I was talking about prayer and attracting your soulmate and seeking what you find. And today I was talking about constructive ways to channel your rage. And I believe that there's some commonalities between the two. So I'll do my best to merge the two topics. So yesterday I was saying that I met a young lady, a beautiful young lady with a beautiful spirit. Her name was Giselle. And she was remarkable to me because I don't meet people like her all that often. And not to say that there aren't more people like her. Perhaps I need to get out more and change my circle because I'm certain that there are delightful people out there. Um, Unfortunately, when you have certain experiences and people, name calling or your adversaries doing certain things, it can tarnish your view about what the world really offers. And the fact is, if you carry a certain energy, if you carry love and you carry positivity and you want the best for people and those things are in your heart, that exists within the world. So certainly there's more of that. Um, and so I guess that's a good segue into the conversation of attracting a soulmate. And Giselle was the one who told me that she had not met her soulmate yet. Um, and she was focused on herself, focused on doing a lot of different things within her life, her own personal endeavors, which excited her. And that's really where we began the conversation. We talked about a lot of things that we had in common that were just very interesting to us. And how we're kind of spending our time focusing on the things that interest us. And I told her, I said, at one point, formerly, after, a very heartbreaking situation, I wanted to know, well, where is he? Where is my soulmate? And I said, oddly, I'm so far removed from that state of mind. And happily, I'm far removed from that state of mind. Not to say that a soulmate is not extraordinarily important because I love love. I'm such a deep believer in love. But I also am very passionate and in love with my passion. And it's very, very fulfilling to me on my day-to-day basis. And so a soulmate is not as much on the forefront of my mind as it is to really see the fruits of my labor and really see my dreams come to life. That brings me a lot of excitement. And I'm certain, I don't doubt, that somewhere along that path, me and my soulmate will meet. But when we got along, when we got on the topic of soulmate, she said she prayed for her soulmate every single day. I thought it was really beautiful. I said, what do you mean, Giselle? You pray for your soulmate? She said, yeah. She said, because think about it. He's a normal person just like us. Like, just like we wake up and we have a certain routine that we do, he does too. So she was like, so I don't know what time he wakes up, but if it's in the morning, I'm praying that he's starting his day, like enjoy. And if he's on his way to work, I'm hoping that he arrives to his job safely. And if he's leaving, I'm hoping he arrives home happy. Like the idea that your soulmate is out there somewhere and wherever they are, whatever hemisphere they're on, or continent, region, state, that they exist. And that's your partner. And this is deep stuff. Like, from my belief, with love is so like overwhelmingly like important, soulmate and a bond with the person that you're supposed to be with. This is a very spiritual thing. This is a very, very spiritual, sacred thing. This is like along with the concept of before we got here, we actually picked out our parents and we actually picked out some of the experiences that we were going to have in life and the family that we were going to be born into and the life lessons that we were going to encounter. We picked out our soulmate. I know this is sounding to some, but it's sacred. So this is the soulmate that God picked for you, selected for you, long before you even got here. And you've been on your journey from since you were a baby and you've become an adult. And they've simultaneously been on their journey separately. And wherever they're at, why not send them a prayer and your well wishes, and also advancement in their purpose and wherever they're going, because the faster they speed that up will likely be the faster that you guys can unite. It's just really beautiful. The idea, like Alanis Morissette said, the fallacy is that we complete one another, but one and one makes a whole, someone that is sure of themselves, someone that has gone through enough of a life journey to be very concrete in who they are, in what they stand for, their ideals, their destiny, their passion, how they think, their journey, the things that, very concrete in those things. They've had enough life experiences to really formulate who they are. That is the person that I seek. Because there's a lot more to talk about when you reunite with somebody who's self-aware. So that idea of soulmate, for me as a lover of love, the idea just had me like, wow, this is really like special. You know what I mean? Like that. This concept is very, very special, and it's twofold. And a lot of times people are like, well, which way do you see it? I see it both ways, because on one end, the heartbreak and the bad relationships prepare you for the one. It would be a lie to say that my personal heartbreaks, I didn't extract any lessons from those things. There's a lot of lessons that I extracted from heartbreak and failed relationships. But the secret really is to be able to maintain your faith that love still exists while processing the pain of the past heartbreaks and extracting all the things that you were meant to learn from these heartbreaks. So the goal is not to have your belief in life and love shut down and you become closed off to the concept of love. You apply that pain that you formerly experienced to everything to come. And that's kind of like letting your lower nature win. For me, I'll use myself as an example. This is pretty personal, but this is something that I have to personally work through, and I can't say that I'm there yet. I'm not going to blame my former employers or my former job experiences, because I applied for these jobs, I signed up for these jobs, and I took on the responsibilities that I was told to take on, so I take personal responsibility for selling myself short in employment situations where I knew that my skills, my intellect, and all the things that I brought to the table, my integrity, really superseded what was expected of me. I knew that I was way over and above qualified. And the reasons why I chose to work positions that I was way overqualified for is a whole nother discussion. That's a whole nother conversation for another day. But I can't be mad when, and this is really not coming from a standpoint of arrogance, but like high schoolers don't go to kindergarten classes because they have more knowledge than that. And don't be mad if the kindergarteners are mad at you for showing up to the class. They're like, why are you here? You know? That's a personal responsibility thing. The job that you choose to work for, that's your choice. And the collection of experiences that you have is also something that you decide to collect. If you follow me, like, you know that your boss is crap. You know that your boss is like very oppressive or lies on you or takes the credit for your work, and it makes you feel like crap, right? You really, really hate working for these people because you're like, this company just lacks such a large extent of integrity, and I'm working so much, and I'm getting paid like way less than what I deserve, and it makes you mad, But the bottom line is, we still have that free will to sign up for those jobs. You can leave any day and do something else. That's a choice. And so for me, I will say, like I said, this is very personal, but some of the baggage that I inherited over the course of working these jobs that I was overqualified for, and the exploitation after exploitation, and the lack of integrity after lack of integrity, it took a toll on me. And I equate this to love. Follow me. I allowed myself to be subjected to these really bad experiences that have now tarnished my outlook, where I'm like, oh, work means exploitation, right? That's my perspective now. Like, work means overworked and underpaid. Work means bosses that don't care about you. Work means coworkers that vilify you or gang up on you. Like, these collection of experiences have made me have a very skewed perception of what work means. And I love to work. Like, I love to work. At one point, damn near a workaholic. But then I hear about my friend who works for Google, and she's like, Google is a blast. I love showing up to work every day. I feel so fulfilled. The perks are amazing. The company parties are awesome. They take care of us. And I'm like, wow, like, you can work for a job and actually feel fulfilled and be happy? Like, that is not, after my collection of experiences, that's like mind-blowing to me. So I apply that to love, right? If you allow your heart to get trampled on so many times because you're constantly picking the wrong one. And meanwhile, you're collecting these experiences. And sometimes heartbreak is like more damaging than anything. Like, there's like literally people have died from their hearts being broken. It's possible. So you're collecting these experiences, and now all women are gold diggers. Now there's no good women in the world. Now all men are dogs. All men are cheaters. You understand what I'm saying? So it's also your responsibility to protect your heart. How far do you want to go? Do you want to have love, like, just your heart broken so many times that love is no longer in you? Right? Like, I called it quits on the jobs that I worked. I said, I'm done. I said, I'm done with this industry. I'm done. Because I knew one more experience, I would just be so, like, that would probably be it. So it's your personal responsibility to call a timeout on love and say, you know what? I need to heal. I'm not going to collect any more experiences that are going to tarnish my perspective about the possibility of love. I'm not going to let heartbreak win. Because you do have a soulmate. You do have somebody on a spiritual level that was meant exactly for you. A perfect partner for you. And yes, you have to take responsibility that it is your fault, that you sold yourself short, that you didn't want to be patient. You wanted just a quick fix, so to speak. And so you settled for that partner who you knew wasn't really your soulmate, but it was a warm body to lay next to, or they served certain purposes or fulfilled you in certain ways, but you didn't feel entirely fulfilled. You didn't feel that spiritual bond like you would have from your soulmate. I think that some of these experiences are necessary because you don't want to attract your soulmate and be naive, like I said before. But again, there are times where you may have to take the solo dolo journey and figure yourself out and mend your broken heart and reset your battery and recharge. It's a necessity. And don't ever let anybody make you feel guilty in any aspect of your life for taking time and saying, you know what? I made some mistakes. I went down a career path that I did not feel fulfilled in. And I'm pissed off about it. I got to show up at this job and deal with these people. And I know that this is not my life purpose. I know that God did not put me here to use a fraction of my intellect and be around people who don't get me, don't understand me, and I don't feel like I'm really, because people think it's about money. Money is really just a bonus. It's a necessity, but really your purpose is really what you're here for. I guarantee you that people are willing to take pay cuts to feel absolutely and fully fulfilled. Most people would take a pay cut and say, yeah, I would take an L on an extra $5,000 or $10,000 a year to work a job that made me feel so good, like so good about myself, where I knew that I was fulfilled in every way, that I woke up in the morning feeling like super excited to go to work because I felt like every single part of me was being utilized, and I was finally around people who I felt like were my intellectual equals, and we were working in a cohesive way. And we were working as a team. Everybody stayed in their lane and everybody felt fulfilled in what they did. And that's why it was like magic, like synergy. Like imagine that. That exists. It's possible. Where you're in an environment where people are actually happy and wanting to do what they do, and nobody's stepping on people's toes, and people aren't trying to take credit for your work and gossip about you, and all of these things, all of this cattiness that we associate with corporate America or with work environments. It doesn't have to be that way, right? So just like I apply that same thing to relationships, there is that perfect person. And things aren't always perfect. It's not like there's not going to be times at the job where something happens, computers shut down or something, and people have to be creative on how they are going to fix that problem. Of course, problems are inevitable. But when you have your soulmate and you have your intellectual equal and you have somebody who's a partner in life, it's not going to seem like such a burden. It's not going to seem like, man, I have to think for this individual as well. You guys are going to be bouncing ideas off of one another, right? When you meet that person that you know is like really your partner for life, you guys are going to be enhancing each other. There will be problems, but it's not going to be problems that you can't work through. And so I started, like Giselle told me, to pray for my soulmate and pray for their protection and make sure that they were doing the things that made them feel fulfilled. And I knew that when we met, if they felt fulfilled, it was going to be a match made in heaven. Because in the past, I know relationships have been an issue, or issues that have risen within the relationship. Now, again, we go back to the topic of personal responsibility. I was a burden to my partner when I was very unfulfilled within my occupation. God, who wants to hear me come home from work and complain for 2 hours about my boss. Nobody. That's such a burden of the relationship when you don't feel fulfilled. And you got to go home every day and they got to hear you talk about your boss and, oh, how much you hate your job and your coworkers. Like, that puts a burden on the relationship. And so I knew that if I was in that situation, I could not be the best partner to my partner. I had to begin a journey at least that was going to allow me to feel more fulfilled as a human being, to be able to be in good spirits and have good energy. I had to get on a different path, period. I had to check my bad habits. I mean, you want to find a partner that's in line with what you envision your best version of yourself to be, right? So if you envision the best version of yourself to be somebody who's, whatever it is, your physical best version, your mental best version, your spiritual best version, your financial best version, all of the categories of life that you see yourself, okay, whatever you envision yourself as is like the best. You would like to find a partner who's along with those same, has similar values. So, for example, health and fitness is something that I'm very attached to. I like my fruits. I like my veggies. I like my grains. I work out and things like that. I wouldn't necessarily be able to create a life with someone who is so committed to having steak and fries and beers all the time. That would just be two different lifestyles. And so that's also up to you to see, is this person even in accordance with the lifestyle that I desire? Do we have two totally, totally different lifestyles that we cannot really find a common ground on? Settling. I guess this is a good segue to rage, right? Because when we talk about the highs of relationships, we have to talk about the lows of relationships and the idea of becoming a broken-hearted love vampire. Somebody who's literally biting people and making them become vampires to love, where they're giving them experiences that when they leave that partnership, they're going to become just like them, brokenhearted, cold, and closed off to the idea of love or soulmate or a sustaining partnership. And that is the conflict in life. That is one of the hardest parts of life. To go through these things, to go through these experiences and not come out like that. To go through these tough things with this job that exploits you and people that do really mean things to you, but not be mean, right? Not be a cold-hearted, mean person, because then it's like a vampire, they got you. Now, one of my favorite Psalms basically says, this is how I interpret it. I'll find the name of the Psalm, but I love this Psalm. It's like, to the righteous, show yourself righteous, and to the clean-handed and the pure, show yourself pure. But to the devious, show yourself shrewd. So know who to designate what to is also a part of discernment. You don't give your heart away to everybody. You don't give your kindness away to everybody, because there are certain people that will exploit it. And that's really a part of your own protection. Know who to give your heart to. Know who to give your time to. If you know that you're a great worker, why? Because everywhere you go, you see people stealing. They're bleeding the clock, where you know that they're only working 2 hours a day. They're trying to get paid for 8 hours a day. You know you have integrity and you work hard. That's a commodity. I know business owners who say, yes, as quiet as it's kept, Kinza, good work, good help is actually very hard to find. So don't see yourself as valueless if you are somebody who works really hard and doesn't bleed the clock and actually has integrity and is there to work, isn't there to start trouble and gossip and be malicious and all of those things. That's a commodity. Any employer would want somebody like that. that values their company and values their brand and takes care of their guests and takes care of their clients. Any employer would want that. So know your worth, know your value. Just like if you're a woman and you know that you have love within your heart, you know that you're a good woman. You're not a cold woman. You're not a shrewd woman. You're not a mean-spirited woman. You're a kind woman. You have compassion. You care. You care about people. You care about your partner. You care. That's a commodity. You're a commodity. So don't see yourself as not that, and do not give your heart away to the wrong person, because you have to protect and preserve that kindness. You have to protect and preserve that compassion, because some people will exploit it. They'll take advantage of it. They won't give and take. They'll just take and take and take and take. That's all they know how to do. And so that brings me to the topic of confirmation bias. Bias confirmation, I think that's the name of the term, is a psych term where basically you're predisposed to a certain belief system, right? So you believe, I don't know, you believe all black people are lazy, right? You could have the hardest working black person right in front of you, but you're going to find some reason to confirm like that notion, right? You're going to go above and beyond just to confirm that notion. It's like bias confirmation. You have these belief systems that are within you, and your own ego is so attached to these belief systems, whether they're false or not, that you are actually going out and you're finding what you seek, because you're so attached to that belief system. Like the law of attraction, similar to what it says. You will seek, you will find what you seek. So if you really believe that, like I said before, all men are dogs, that's what you're going to find. Or there's no integrity in the world, that's what you're going to find. All of these things, you will find what you seek. And that brings me to this whole thing with rage. I remember my father was really a very spiritual man, and my father was an exceptional man. I talk about him a lot because he's my hero. I love my dad. I'm a daddy's girl all day. Although my mom primarily raised me, my dad left a tremendous impact on me with the things that he taught me. My dad gave me so much wisdom and so many life lessons. We would be talking all day if I could begin to just unpack all the things that my dad taught me. I had the most amazing dad ever. Amazing dad. Like, if you talk about somebody who's just kind and compassionate and like big-hearted and just nurturing and full of love, oh my God, that was my dad. And I was conceived in love. My dad loved my mom when they met, and he wanted to help my mom. She was a mother, and that's what love is. When you see somebody and you see some of the things that they need help with, and you want to help them, you want to see them flourish, you want to see them successful, you want to see them become awesome and great. That's what love is. You want to inspire them. So he saw my mom, and she was struggling. She was a single mom. And I just remember him telling me how much his heart went to single moms, and the idea of children not having dads was really just like heartbreaking to him. And he really preserved a special place in his heart for single moms. And his love for her said, you know what? I want you to be able to focus on the children, and I want you to be able to be home and taking care of the children. Let me work. Let me take care of certain things, and I want to make sure that you're good, like in every way, because the world can be taxing, and a lot of the circumstances that we go through can take tolls on us. It can take tolls on our disposition when you have a single mom who's overworked and underpaid, and then she's got to take care of these kids and all of these things, right? So a man that loves you is going to see you and be like, you know what? I don't want you to be stressed out. I don't want you to be angry. I want to help you. I want you to feel good. And that's what my dad did. And just the way that he moved and like just the way that he loved, it taught me so much. And if I ever got brokenhearted, I could also always refer to my dad and say, good men do exist. Look at my dad. Men who love do exist. Look at my dad. And so he was exceptional, like I said. His integrity was beyond par. I never saw my dad, do anything like drink or smoke or anything like that. And he worked as a chaplain. He was actually the first Muslim chaplain in America in 2 upstate penitentiaries, one being Attica. If you know about Attica, Attica is one of the most ferocious, like it's infamous for having some of the hardest criminals. But he saw them as human beings. He didn't vilify people. And he basically gave them a lot of spiritual advice on how they could correct their lives and improve their circumstances. And I bet if my dad was alive to revisit this conversation, and he was a big deal, the mayor of New York would call him in to settle disputes in Attica when inmates would have upheavals and they'd start gang rivals and they'd start fighting each other and all these things. They would call my dad in to make peace with the inmates. So it's like, as much as he was like kind-hearted and just like full of love and compassion, he was a very like spiritual guy, like a very like peaceful man. And he taught me that the faith that he like taught us, Islam, meant peace. And so he would tell us about this hadith that the Prophet, peace be upon him, said, the solution, one of the solutions in your life is don't get angry. It was like a mantra. He repeated it 3 times. Don't get angry. Don't get angry. Don't get angry. And outside of discrimination and racism and all of these things that land people in jail, inequality, poverty, I would say that he would equate anger probably for one of the main reasons that most of the inmates got there. Hold on one second. I learned, the first law class I took was, I believe, junior year of high school. I took a law class, and it was like a social studies / law class. And this was the first time I ever heard about crime of passion, where essentially there was this thing called crime of passion, and people would, I guess, be sentenced to less time if they had committed a crime of passion. An example of this would be a man's coming home from work and he sees his wife sleeping with another man in their bed and he flips out like any sane man would. Now, the crime that he commits is not what everybody would do, but if he chose to murder that man that was sleeping with his wife, he would likely get a lesser sentence. Why? Because it's a crime of passion. It's the notion that something happens that enrages you to such a large degree that you literally lose your mind for a quick minute, right? I've heard people say they've gotten so enraged that they've blacked out. Like they've literally blacked out, where they can't even tell you what their mode of thinking was in that moment because fury took over them. That to that extent that they blacked out. And in those moments, the actions that they took were not actions that they thought through. And there's a lot of people locked up because of fury. Because if they could have done it again, right? And my dad said they would talk to him about their regret. You know, especially people that were in there for murder. They said, you know, if I could do it again, I would have just thought through it. You know, I would have thought through it. And not done those things. You know, I knew it was wrong to kill my best friend, or I knew it was wrong to, you know, because there was a lot of people in there for murder. This is Attica we're talking about. And it was just, but they said like it was the rage that had basically taken control of them, that allowed them to have such a grave state of misjudgment that they acted out of character, you know? So the prophet, peace be upon him, said the key is don't get angry. Never get to that place. Don't get angry. However, we have to be also very realistic about our society. There's a lot of things within our society that enrage us, right? We live in a very sick society. And how do we know that we live in a very sick society? Because 70% of people are on prescription drugs. There are people that have to pop a pill just to be able to function. These are drugs. I've said this before. People think because a doctor, you know, prescribed it and it comes from a pharmacy that it's, you know, these are okay to take. No, these are drugs. No, you're a drug addict. And I'm not saying this from a judgmental standpoint. I'm saying it is. If you are taking drugs every single day, you are a drug addict, even if it is a pharmaceutical drug. Why are people diagnosed with anxiety? Why are people diagnosed with depression? Why? It's no measure, like Krishnamurti says, of you know, good health to be well adjusted to an extremely sick society. The fallacy of normality within our society is just, it blows my mind. How are we talking about normality when 70% of people are on drugs, prescription drugs? Probably far more than that on some sort of drugs. Why are we talking about normality when I know people watch the clock just waiting for happy hour, just waiting, you know, damn, it's only noon. I got 5 more hours in this place. Like, that's a routine for some people. Like, as soon as they get out of work, they got to have themselves a drink. If we were that happy and if we were that normal, why would we have the need to escape our reality? By having drinks and popping pills and doing drugs and smoking weed and all of these things. Why? So this idea of normality, as mental health is such a huge topic in our society, but I say, who decides? If somebody who's on a prescription drug tells me that I need to go to therapy or see a counselor, I say, well, you know, no offense, but are you normal if you have to take a pill every day just to function? So there's a lot of things within our society that people are upset about. We're upset about wage disparities. Black people are upset that their ancestors worked for 4 centuries and still haven't received any compensation for that. We're upset about a lot of different things. We're upset about the priorities of this nation. We're upset about a lot of different things. It's not the denial of rage. It's how you channel that rage. And one thing that I love that Kobe Bryant did was this caged Muse thing. When you have a chance, check it out. He had a lesson for the kids. You know, I love the kids. And he did this special on the Muppet Show about being a caged muse and how fury actually could be used as a really good thing. So you can take that fury, right? You can take a very, very oppressive circumstance and something that would enrage a normal person, and you can use that to do something harmful to you that will land you in jail, or you can take that fury and you can use that rage to power you to do something that you never thought that you could do. There is power in rage. There's power in rage. I mean, if you've ever been like really pissed off, you feel that rage taking over you, and you literally, like when somebody's about to fight somebody, right? Normally, they might not even, if they're just chilling and they're feeling good, they might not even punch that hard. But let them be furious, somebody's getting knocked out. So there's power in rage, but it's a matter of how you channel that power. And Kobe Bryant was basically saying that beast mode came from his rage. It was birthed in his fury. And he decided to pick up a basketball. Instead of picking up a gun, he's telling the kids, go ahead and pick up a basketball. Use that rage to become really good at something. Become the next Bruce Lee. Become the next LeBron James. Become the next Serena Williams. Become the next Tupac. Whatever. Use that rage to actually be constructive, right? When you see people with banging bodies like cat, 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 they're chiseled. What is it that fuels them when they're at the gym and they're lifting up those weights? What is it that fuels them? A lot of times it's rage. But they're using their rage constructively. This conversation also has to take a turn of personal responsibility, just like I was saying with the job and with love. What is the root of your rage? What is the cause of your rage? Because as much as your boss is an exploiter and an oppressor, and you are overworked and you are underpaid, and all of those things are true, you have to take personal responsibility for the fact that you put yourself in a situation that you don't like. So as much as you hate the fact that your girl ignores you or your man ignores you and doesn't pay you enough attention, or you feel like your relationship is loveless, you don't feel nurtured or cared for, you have to take some personal responsibility and say, you know what? I put myself in this position. I attracted this partner. I wrote this song, I'm alone but never lonely. Why? Why? Because the thing is, every single thing has its pros and every single thing has its cons. If you are unwilling to stand alone, if you are unwilling to walk in solitude, and you are unwilling to be by yourself, you may settle for less because of your fear of being by yourself. So your fear of being by yourself is really your personal responsibility. It's your personal responsibility to eradicate your fears. If you fear aloneness, that's not anybody else's fault. If it takes a certain amount of strength to leave a situation that you're not happy in, that you don't feel fulfilled in, but you say, I'm too weak, I'm not strong enough, then that's your own fault for being angry. That is your own fault for not being strong enough to be able to persevere and survive on your own and survive alone. And I'm not just talking about financially, I'm talking about really where it really counts. I'm talking about emotionally. I'm talking about mentally. You understand? So you have to take responsibility for the people that you are. And I'll use some examples. There are people right now that are angry. I've heard guys, talk about other guys. You see a guy in LA on Venice Beach and he's cat, all built. And he's like, yeah, he probably takes steroids, But like, that says nothing about the guy who's like cat. That says everything about you. You know what I mean? Like, that says everything about you. Same with the girl, who's jealous of another girl, who's talking about how she looks and things like that. That says nothing about that girl. That says everything about you. Tyra Banks was like, usually when you hear girls talking and they're like, oh, she thinks she's all that, that means I think she's all that. That's usually what that means. And how does that person and how they feel about themselves have anything to do with you? What if that girl wakes up early in the morning and takes good care of her body and works out all the time and makes sure that she puts good things inside of her body? What if she does that? How does that have anything to do with you? And if you want to master something, why not take notes and apply that to your life over talking trash? Personal responsibility. If you are a landlord and you decide to buy a condominium from some condo owners who are selling their condo, and there's a tenant in there that you don't like, why didn't you check the tenant out before you decided to buy the condo? I mean, certainly there's a lot of other condos on the market. Why not screen the tenant and say, you know what? I think that I'm going to go with another option because I don't know if I really want to deal with this person. Same with a job. If you get interviewed for a job and you're on the job and you're like, you know what, this isn't really for me. I don't know if I can really work for this person. You can get out. That's an option. So, goes back to the idea of personal responsibility. That nobody is really the cause of your own anger. And I can say this as a survivor of domestic abuse. Nobody tells you to go back to that partner if they put their hands on you. That is your personal responsibility. And this may sound insensitive. It is your personal responsibility to take care of yourself. It is your personal responsibility to take care of your emotions. Nobody is responsible for your anger in the way that you feel but yourself. You are the reason that you're mad. Period. And it may be a hard pill to swallow, but at the end of the day, it's very empowering. Because if you are responsible for your anger and what gets you mad, you also have the key to make yourself feel good and get yourself out of it. Peace.